So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode. This is episode 12 of the Mr. Hayden podcast. So, it's 2023. It's New Year's Eve 2023, and I'm going to recap everything that I've learned in 2023. I'm going to recap the main things that I've learned so that hopefully you can get some takeaways. Now, depending on when you're listening to this, this is going to be relevant every single year. These are sort of ongoing life lessons. So, I'm going to dive straight into it, guys. I hope you're doing fantastic. Point number one in my diary is you can do anything with confidence and time. Confidence and time is all it takes. So I remember when I grew up and I always wanted to do stuff. There was many things that I wanted to do. I wanted to start businesses in many different areas, whether it was selling on eBay, selling on Amazon, wholesale sort of businesses. And there was this thing in my mind, and I never forget it, that always put a limit on what I could achieve. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has had this thing as well. So whenever I thought about, back in the day, what I can achieve, and I still get this now, I've always thought to myself, oh yeah, but if it was that easy, everyone would do it. Or, oh, there must be a catch. Oh, what's the actual catch? That's not going to work for X reason. And it's taken me up until this year with the success that I've had. And by the way, I'm not hugely successful, but I've definitely got a good amount of traction now. You know, we've done over 135,000 sales this month with tens and tens of £1,000s of bottom line net profit. And even now, I still struggle with this, right? So I always thought and assumed that, for example, let's say, you know, if I wanted to start selling on Amazon 8 to 10 years ago, that's the first time I actually thought about doing it. By the way, that was like the early adopters. Like if I started back then, I'd be hugely successful right now on the platform. But back then, my mindset said to me, oh no, there's obviously a catch, you know, not everyone can do it. And the catch was just having the confidence to actually start it, and then also sticking with it for a long enough time to actually get success. And what I've learned is that that's actually the catch for most things in life. It's actually just about having the confidence to start it and having the inner, deep, internal confidence to stick with it and to actually believe that it's going to work out long term. And that tends to be the only two things that it takes. Obviously, along with many hardships on the road, but as long as you've got them two fundamental things, the confidence and you're willing to stick with it for a certain amount of time, generally you can be successful at most things. That's from what I've learned. It's a lesson that's been taught to me multiple times, but I think as you start to grow in business, and certainly myself, as I'm starting to get more and more profit in the business and paying myself more and more, I'm going to be paying myself, not to brag, just it is what it is, and it's inspiring. I think probably about £12,000 I'll pay myself in personal income this month. Obviously, we've made a lot more in the businesses, but what I'm actually happy to pay myself. And back in the day, I wouldn't have thought that was possible. Honestly, I just genuinely wouldn't have thought that was possible. And I share that to inspire you because I know that that's just the tiny little introduction to what is possible. I know that I could be earning 50 to 100,000 a month if that's what I wanted to earn. If you've just got the confidence to stick to something, to pick something, stick to it, and then stick with it for a long enough time horizon for you to be successful and actually put some work into it. And that goes for most things. It's just about having the confidence to know that you can do anything, and it's just about sticking with it. And as I say, I still struggle with this now, guys. I'm not like, I haven't mastered this, right? I still think to myself, oh, I'd like to build a company like First Form. And if you don't know, it's a big supplement company owned by Andy Frisella, or Gymshark or something like that. And I thought to myself, oh yeah, but that's going to be really hard. You know, can I actually do that? Probably not. But then I have to question myself on that, because actually I can. And actually the only reason I'm not doing it is because I haven't got the confidence to commit to that, because right now I probably just don't want it enough. But if I had the confidence to commit to that and I was willing to put the time into that, then yeah, absolutely you can do it. It might take you 20 years, okay, but you can do it. So that's the first point. You can do anything. Like deeply, you've just got to have the confidence to know that you can. And you've got to be patient on a long enough time horizon, and you can achieve anything. Most people in their life don't do much at all. They don't go after much at all. So those that don't even have that much confidence to start, like I didn't believe that I was going to be successful, guys. I didn't believe that I was going to achieve what I've achieved. I didn't believe that I just had to stick to stuff. I didn't stick to stuff. I wished and washed and went all over the place with different businesses, and I've still managed to have a good level of success. So imagine someone that has that deep confidence, which you get after being in businesses for many, many years. That's why most people in business are actually successful at a later stage, not because you can't be successful in a young age. But I believe that you've got to, unless you're like a crazy, like amazing forward mindset, like someone like Stephen Bartlett or Ben Francis that seem to have that luck on their side, right? And I'm not saying that luck was the reason they're successful at all, but they were also born with a lucky mindset, in my opinion. They have that confidence really, really deeply put inside them to know that they can win, and to actually really deeply know that they can win and have that deep confidence from the off. And most people have to build that over time by proving confidence to themselves. That's why it's amazing that some people have this confidence when they're born. Or who knows, maybe they got it from somewhere else, but that deep confidence and then the time in the game, and you can achieve anything. And I deeply believe that now. So 2023 has taught me that I can actually do anything I want. And I'm getting to the stage where I'm willing to do something that I don't want to do. And that's quite hard, because sometimes, and a lot of the incomes that I've built up with my multiple income streams now, some stuff I wouldn't say I'm very happy to do, but I sort of have to do it. I don't have to do it at all, but I like the income that comes with it. And I'm getting to the stage now where it's kind of like you've kind of got to decide, do you want to achieve your biggest dreams, or do you want to keep being comfortable now? And there's kind of a bit of jumping that has to go on there, but that's a story for a different day. So that's it, guys. That's my main biggest takeaway. You can do anything with confidence and time in the game. Point number 2, business, as you keep growing, gets easier and harder all at the same time. It's a paradox, if you will. So in the early days, business I found really, really tough. I felt like I wasn't getting much momentum, and it took ages to get the wheels moving. And I've talked about this in my last video, a couple of videos ago, where you've got like an old steam train, and the wheels to start with just start going, and then as the momentum builds on that train, once it's going on the tracks, really 40, 50, 60 miles out, and early days in business for myself and for most people, it's just really hard to get that momentum going. As you start to progress and build like I am now, okay, like not Bill Gates, but we're getting there, right? It definitely gets a lot easier in a lot of areas. Money comes a lot easier. However, it gets harder at the same time. So business is a paradox. Like a lot of people in the early days think that, if I can just get to 100,000 in sales, for example, Amazon, eBay, whatever business you're doing, I'll just be happy. Just give me that so that I can get out my job with $2,000 a month, whatever profit. And then you get to there, right? And then you're like, the $2,000 a month's not enough because I've got to pay bills, and what if something happens? I've got to leave a certain amount in the business. Let's just get it to $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month. And then you get to that, you get to $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month profit. Then you're like, but now I want to make some really good money because I still don't feel like it's enough to live the life that I've. And then you keep setting the goalposts further and further apart. So it gets easier because, you've got that skill set and the resources and the outsourcing and the confidence and whatever that comes with building businesses. But it also gets harder because you've constantly got to level up, and you've got to then start looking at outsourcing and staff and warehousing and all this other stuff that goes with it. And then also, because you've got that deep inner confidence to know that you can start to know that you can do anything, whether it's in your industry or another industry, then it opens up other opportunities. So the hardest part comes saying no to new opportunities and actually knowing what opportunities are right for you and what opportunities are not right for you, because a lot of opportunities come as you grow in business, whether it's your personal profile that's building, the personal brand that you're building, or just the business in the industry that you're building. Trust me, when you start to be good at that, opportunities come. I've got opportunities now to build private label brands with people that have had and sold successful brands. I've got opportunities to start service-based businesses. I could be doing coaching right now, earning thousands and thousands a month from coaching. I could be doing courses. I could be doing like go all in on some random podcast that I really want to do, that I'm really passionate about, and give up everything else. And I know that I could replace all of my incomes with that. And then So although it gets easier as you're growing, sometimes financially, it gets harder in many ways as well. And I don't want you to think that, if you're not a good stage in business, that it's just going to be plain sailing, because it's pretty much always hard, and it might be just hard in different ways. As you grow in business, you've got to start to decide what is a best allocation of your time and the big goals that you've got, and sometimes start saying no to short-term money and cutting your income so that you can go after your bigger goals that you've got in life. And that's more of an advanced, once you've got good momentum in business sort of thing to do. Almost dropped the mic then. But yeah, it's a real problem. I find myself chasing, still to this day, too many goals, and still always trying to make sure that I'm aligned with who I am and where I want to go. And it's come to a stage now where I'm actually going to have to start making less money in 2024 in certain ways, so that I can make sure that long term I'm following my long goals, which will eventually end up in actually a lot more financial income, money as well. But it's not all about that. It's just not all about the money, but it certainly is to start with. Number 3, focus is everything, and it's actually more than you know. So I think with focus, it's very underestimated. People just think, oh yeah, you should stick to one thing. Oh, I don't actually believe that you should necessarily have to stick to one thing. I think if you want to build something like Gymshark or like Microsoft, whatever, then yeah, you probably should stick to one thing, because it's going to take a hell of a lot of resources in your time. But it is possible. But if you want to build wealth, and if you want to earn 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month, I believe that you can have multiple income streams and a couple of businesses, maybe 2 or 3 max, I would say, is probably a good thing to shout at. But, who am I to say that? It's up to you, whatever you think you can handle. But here's the more important thing about focus that people don't seem to talk about. People think, when you say to someone, are you going to be all right doing 2 things at once or building 3 businesses at one time? They think to themselves, just because a matter of time, let's say they don't work for anyone and they work for themselves, they think, yeah, I can, because I can do 9 hours a day, 3 hours a day. Okay, so I can do 3 hours on my media business, 3 hours on my advertising agency, 3 hours on my e-commerce business, for example, right? But what they don't take into account, and one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in 2023 that really has taken serious consideration, I've spent a lot of my time just reallocating my focuses and my goals, is that to get good momentum in business and in your personal, whatever you're doing, right, you need to have what I call a perfect repeatable week. And I learnt that from Daniel Presley, recently when I heard him speak. Phenomenal speech. You need a perfect repeatable week. The people that are successful have a perfect repeatable week where they do, if it's a big business, one task and they do it good, right? Let's say Gymshark. All they're doing is focusing on launching new product lines every single week. They may not be launching new products every week, but someone's working on them designs. Someone's figuring out the organization, and someone's doing all this. Someone's constantly marketing. There's systems and processes for all that, and they just keep building that machine. And that's going to be a huge multi-billion-pound business. It's already a unicorn, whatever. You need that perfect repeatable week. The thing with focus, it's not actually about the time that you put in. This is what I've learned. It's not about the time that you've necessarily just put in. It's about the focus on that task and the momentum you can push into it. It's really easy for me to allocate time to, let's say, this podcast, and then go and do some product launch creation stuff over here with my other business. With a time allocation thing, it's very easy to do that. But here's what's not taken into account with that switch there. It's that deep inner works where most of the things that you're going to achieve that are big in your lifetime come from them moments where you take a step back and you deeply think and have that time to yourself about how you can be innovative, how you can be creative, and how you can beat the competition. Because if someone's putting in 100% into their e-commerce business and you're only putting 50% in, or even 80 or 90%, they're likely going to win because they've given it that extra deep thought and they haven't been task jumping. When you task jump to another business, even if it's in the same week, right? You think, oh, I'll just spend a day on this e-commerce business, then a day on the media business. It actually detracts from you a lot more than you know. And the reason it does that is because humans need, in order to achieve big stuff, humans need to master these things, right? And I don't have an answer for this, by the way, because I'm still in this predicament. But humans have to master certain tasks and certain industries. But until you fully commit to these things, right, these individual tasks, one individual business, it's just really hard to become the best at that thing. And if you're not aiming to be the best at that thing, then it's kind of what are you doing? Because, look at Diary of a CEO, for example, with Stephen Bartlett, right? He has mastered podcasting and actually revolutionized podcasting in certain ways, especially with the trailers and the clips that he does with his intros. No one else is doing it to that level. That's because of the amount of commitment that they put into that and the time. And you just know how much deep time and inner learnings he's put into that thing. And it's just, if you are chopping and changing and doing different tasks, you don't get the ability to just on a deep level become the best and become who you need to be in order to beat the competition. Not only beat the competition, but just get some serious momentum behind that. And I'm constantly finding myself in a dilemma where I think to myself, I kind of just want to chop everything in and just focus on one thing. And that's not because, let me just be clear, that I can't do multiple things and be successful, because I actually am already. I earn thousands of pounds a month profit from my media business. I earn tens of thousands. Well, this month I did earn tens of thousands a month profit from my e-commerce business, and we earn thousands a month from it anyway in bottom line profit. I'm just starting an agency, and that's going to earn a lot of money as well once the momentum's built. But sometimes I think to myself, the smart thing to do right now is not doing something because I can't, but doing something because I should. And in the early days especially, you kind of need to focus on one or two things. Ideally one, not because you can't do more than one, because everyone can do more than one really. It's just you don't give it your all and you don't get that it's just hard to explain. If you put 4 or 5 hours into something and then you change onto something else, right? You miss that extra mile where you're putting in the extra work, where you're starting work on your next product launch, or you're making your product launch even better because of the mental space that you no longer have, because you're aware that you've got to do a different task after this. But if you're fully focused on one business and being the best at that, you push that so much further because you've got the mental space and the mental clarity to know what's missing, to know what's going to push you above the rest and make you better than the rest. And that's the thing that I struggle with. I know that, honestly, I should probably be doing one thing right now and doing it really good. Because if you do one thing and do it really good, you can become world class at it. But look, am I going to do that? Probably not. And I know that I should. But that's because I'm kind of happy doing a couple of things. I enjoy it. But if the day ever came where it was too much for me, then I'd have to cut everything and just do one thing and make that really good. So yeah, I haven't got an answer for that, but that's it. Focus is everything and more than you know. I just wanted to make you aware of that. A lot of people think they understand focus and they just don't. Focus is not just about the time, it's about the allocation of your energy and your mental resources. You've only got so many, and you're not going to become world class at anything unless you focus on it. Athletes aren't messing around with loads of different things. They focus. Like a professional boxer is training all the time, and that's all they do, and they become world class at it. And I just don't understand how anyone, including myself, expects to become world class or the best at something and build huge momentum unless you're fully focused and invested in that thing. It's a mental thing, you know. So yeah, that was it. Number 4, most people. Another main lesson I've learned in 2023 is that most people live a pretty boring life, and I don't think you should settle, and I think you should be spontaneous. So, like, let me explain what I mean here. I've got this flat here in this nice area, and, you know, I like it, and I know that I could quite easily go and get a 4 or 5 bedroom house right now and sort of get a big mortgage and do that sort of thing and just, you know, I'd like to say be happy, but I wouldn't be. And here's why. Most people, I think they just sort of numb themselves. They rent a place or buy a place, and usually buy a place, to be honest, because they think societal pressures that they should give into, and they buy a place when a lot of the times renting's actually a better thing to do, but that's for another podcast, and invest your money elsewhere. But not in all scenarios, but a lot of people will buy a place in a certain area that necessarily hasn't got much going on, and then they have a kid, and then all of a sudden they realise that they've got to stay in their jobs in order to be able to pay for that mortgage, to pay for the cars, to pay for the holidays, to pay for the babies, to pay for the children, whatever. And then they just end up getting into bad habits and actually not achieving what they want to achieve in life. So they can sit there watching Love Island of an evening, and hey, it's okay to watch, stuff, movies or films that you want to watch, as long as it's intentional. But the problem here comes when most people end up just doing a routinely bad routine. So they will get home and end up, without even realizing it, by the way, they won't be very productive. Even if some of them go to the gym, they'll end up just watching TV or, just planning the same old thing every weekend, or, maybe the odd holiday now and then, whatever. But generally they're just going to work, coming home, watching TV, maybe going to the gym, which is great if you do, and then looking after the kids, whatever, not actually that fulfilled and not actually conquering life in any way, because they've let themselves get tied down by these liabilities. I'll level with you guys. As I said, I'll probably pay myself $12,000 this month. My rent's minimal. I mean, I probably spend about $900 a month, my share of like bills and outgoings and stuff like that, and I've paid myself a lot. Like, that's probably like 7 or 8% of my income this month I've spent on outgoings, and that's very, very intentional. The rest of my money is going investments. The rest of my money is going back into the business and essentially building the life that I want to do, and savings and stuff like that, and building the life that I want to do. The only 2 plans that I can see myself doing are buying a house or a flat outright, cash, and then not having to worry about the mortgage, or having a very, very small mortgage so that I can still go and travel the world, so that I can still go and stay in, travel to different areas, 3 or 4 months in Dubai, 3 or 4 months in Australia whilst I've got that base. Or the next thing is that I'll just rent and just live 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time in a different area. And you know why? Because it keeps you young. And I think that, humans were not created in order for us to not explore. We were never created for you to go and buy a house, to be stuck in a job that is average at best, that you're not a fan of, to stay in one location and to be restricted. Humans weren't built to do that. If you strip us all the way back, we should be adventuring. We should be adventuring, and you should be able to go wherever you want to go and do what you want to do. And if you get that inner urge to think that, hey, I think there's actually more, I think there's more to my life than what I'm currently doing, then it's your duty to do that. And I just don't allow myself ever to get influenced by people that are just living a life that isn't congruent with the life that I want. I won't have anyone tell me that I'm making the wrong decision when I'm living way below my means, because I know what makes me happy. And for me, I always have to have the freedom and the ability to go where I want and do what I want whenever I want. Even signing a year's lease on this flat was hard for me, because I don't like my freedom being restricted. I mean, I'm in the situation now where I could just keep paying it and it wouldn't actually be an issue, even if I decided I want to go and live somewhere else for 3 or 4 months now. But it's a hard one, because the life makes it hard, and society makes it hard for you to be as agile as we should be. But there's no reason any of us should be stuck with big liabilities, have a house in an area which is pretty boring. There's not much you can do, and just have an pretty average life, to be honest, and not be that fulfilled. Like, don't you miss that buzz? Like, I love taking risk. And I just think to myself, I love being spontaneous. Me and my girlfriend talk about this. Who knows where we're going to be when this lease is up in 9 months or whatever. We could live in Australia. We could live in Portugal. We could live wherever we want. And that's because we're building lives around the ability to be able to do that, so that we can have ultimate freedom. And some people think, oh yeah, it's not as easy. It's easy for you because you've built your online incomes. Well, actually, it wasn't easy for me at all. I had to build the online incomes, and I had to build, enough money in the bank for me to have that safety net as well. And I built that, and I sacrificed, and living below my means now. As I say, I could be driving an Audi R8 right now and living in a 5-bedroom house, sure, but why? To show it off? I have no desire to do that, and when I do, then I'll do it, but I don't. People will think this is an age thing. It's not an age thing. This is a reality thing. Like, I understand that most people are not happy. Like, most people live pretty boring lives, and sometimes me and my girlfriend will sit here and just go, oh, God, this is boring. There's nothing to do. And then we start looking, oh, should we move here at the end of the lease? We're looking at Cardiff. We're looking at Bristol. We're looking at Brighton. We're looking at... Because why not? Life's about taking them big jumps. Oh, let's move to a new city. Let's get a new job. Let's start a new business. Let's take some risks. Sometimes you don't even have to have a plan. If you've got that inner knowing to know that you should do something else and that you're just bored, then guys, it's your duty to do something different. That's what I've learned in 2023. It is actually your duty, because the only other option is to be miserable if you're not going to take that leap. Is it going to be easy? No. But should you do it? Absolutely. If you want to live a fulfilled life, you have to be adventuring, you have to be risk-taking, and you have to be willing to change. And willing to have uncertainty in your life. And the people that I know that are not happy are the ones that are unwilling to have uncertainty. There's going to be times of uncertainty, but uncertainty actually turns into fun when you get used to it. And you just have to understand that it would actually be boring without uncertainty. When everything's going swimmingly with me, when everything's going good and like everything's running really, really well and perfectly and stuff like that, it's okay for a couple of days, but then I get bored. I think what's happening here? I haven't got much movement, so I have to set myself new goals and challenge myself more, because it's just too normal and it's too boring. So yeah, that's it, guys. To summarize, you can do anything. Stop believing that you can't. Business gets easier as you grow, but it also gets harder when more opportunities come your way. Focus is everything, and a lot more than you know. So be careful with your focus. Be really, really careful, because that's dictating where you're going to be in 10 years more than you know. Most people live pretty boring lives. You should definitely not settle, and you should be more spontaneous in 2024 and beyond. Guys, once again, if you're listening to this on YouTube, I'd really appreciate if you went to the Mr. Hayden podcast on Spotify or on Apple and subscribed, because it really, really helps me build some momentum there as well. I will see you in the next video. See you soon.